Hello and welcome to the Masonic Improvement Podcast. I'm Dennis Yates and I am your host this evening. Tonight, we have the pleasure of interviewing Brother George Moxley. Brother George is making himself available for the Grand South this year. But we're not here to politic. We just want to talk with George and get to know him. And I got to tell you, with his bio, wow, Brother George, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We have a few different questions that we always ask our participants, and so I'm going to go with some generic questions, and then we will. I'd like to talk about a couple of the resolutions that are coming up in Grand Lodge, and kind of get your feel for that, and just kind of go with the flow and get to know you, because there's so many things about you and your personal and Masonic legacy that it's just amazing. And I think you should have been telling people about all these things a long time ago. I'm sure most of your brothers around but me, I'm just a young pup, so I'm getting to know for the first time, and it's exciting, and I'm very happy to have you on the show. So, George, why did you join Freemasonry? What was your initial decision?
I don't know as much as joining it. I was kind of drawn to it through our family ties to Masonry. I'm a sixth generation Mason. And
Wow.
I remember my dad going to the Masonic meetings, and they'd have family nights. We'd go up there with him, and it was a big deal. And I met a lot of good men that he was associated with in the Masons, and I liked what was going on. I liked what I heard about them, and of course we didn't have the internet and all back there to go Google all this stuff, but meeting some of the guys that he's been with for quite a while. A lot of the guys that were in the lodge were working on the newspaper. He worked for the Austin newspaper as a pressman, and they all we're all in this lodge together. And I just wanted to be part of it. And I'm glad that I did. It's been a great. I've been a Mason for 47 years, and I've loved every minute of it. And it's just been part of my life for over half my life, and I've done a lot of things in it, and I've enjoyed doing everything that I've done, and I want to keep doing things and do more.
Very nice. 47 years. That's a lot. That's something to be celebrated right there. You've seen, we all hear about these changes, that need to happen, these things that go on. You've seen different changes. You've seen the different generations of Masons come in and out of the fraternity. That's magnificent. That is awesome. That brings a new perspective that you young guys out there, pay attention.
Well, both my sons and my son-in-law are Masons, and they're past masters of our lodge, and so it's been quite a journey. Plus, I got to do all three of their degrees. I got to install all three of them as master of the lodge, which was quite an experience.
Very nice.
Unfortunately, my father passed away before they got in. I wish he'd have been there, because he would have been proud of that. But it's been a family thing, and we've got a 18-year-old grandson. We wait and see what he might do. So he could be generation number 8, I guess.
Very nice. My younger son is wanting to. My older son is he wants to, but he's got his young family, but my younger son, he's he's young and full of ambition, and so he's prime for the picking. I'm gonna introduce him to Hillcrest Lodge one of these days soon. I think that his
Yeah.
personality will fit in real well with the brothers over there.
Yeah, it's a great lodge.
So going back to your humble beginnings, how did the reality of Freemasonry compare with your expectations?
Well, I don't know that I really had any expectations going in because I really didn't know that much about it other than what I'd seen with my dad. But the reality is it's a great organization. They do great things, and I want to be part of that. I want to be able to help the lodges do great things and the Grand Lodge do great things and all the charities that we have. I'm just proud to be part of it.
What about how do you feel about the education that you've learned, the different degrees and things like that? Did you really have any aha moments, or just times when you were just completely dumbfounded by what you saw and were like, man, I have arrived?
Yeah. Well, I've had an esoteric certificate since 1977, and the gentleman that taught me my work, taught me all the lectures, told me, he says, I'll teach you the lectures, but you're going to learn the long form. So that was kind of an aha minute, trying to learn all the long form lectures, and especially the fellowcraft lecture. But I did, and I still do I usually do the long form EA and masters. The fellowcraft's a long form. So I haven't done that one too much lately, but I really enjoy the esoteric work. I'm a ritualist. I love the esoteric work, and I'm always trying to improve on it and help other people improve on it. I've been a district instructor now for 7 years, and I thoroughly enjoy that, going to the lodges and helping them, with the work and how not just the wording, but the movements. The movements are really important in these degrees, and I've noticed that coming to graded degrees with the committee on work, that the lodges lose more points in movement than they do in words. So I like to work with them and make sure they're getting all these movements that the committee on work wants them to do. But that's been a lot of fun for me. It's been a real passion of mine to teach people the esoteric work and the degree work and how it's supposed to be and how
Right.
the committee on work wants it to be.
Being a police officer in your past life, I can definitely understand where you appreciate the structure and the sharp lines and the 90 degrees and all that. It does make a difference, and it the sharper image makes for a better, much better degree, in my opinion, as well.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I did police work for 40 years, so yeah, I've got that background in there, and I want things done right. But
Absolutely.
I have fun everywhere I go.
I've talked to people a lot and about leadership, when this past year traveling with the officer leadership team and helping with the different functions there. I talked to a lot of brothers and told them, really, when you're looking for solid members to become officers, look to your ritualists, because your ritualists, they like it right. They know there's a reason for it. They like it right. They want it to, it's not just about the presentation of opening and closing lodge, but just the fact that they plan for it, they prepare, and then they execute. And I think that our strongest officers have that same mentality.
I agree.
So I commend you on having that certificate for so long. I've been lazy about it. I probably need to. I participate in a lot of degrees and I do a lot of different parts, but I'm that guy that I don't say I don't need a certificate. That's not important. I don't say that because I don't believe that. I think that there's, just like each degree, it's a rite of passage, and you've earned it and you deserve it and you should have it.
Yeah. Well, the thing we need to get some of these, especially some of these younger guys, is get them to go to a lot of these forums that the Committee on Work put on. Those are great.
Yes,
We have a lot of fun with them. I've been to forums with, I think, just about all the committee members, but they have a lot of fun doing it. It's not just, strictly by the book here, let's have some fun. You make mistakes, but that's what you're there for, is to learn.
absolutely.
You need those people to go to these forums and try to take the exams, even if you're just going for a Class C. When I got my first few degree esoteric certificates, there was no A, B, and C. You learned it all,
Wow.
and so it was a lot to do to get those certificates. But and I don't have a problem with the A, B, and C certificates. I think that's great. But I think we need to get more people involved in the forums and learn to open and close the lodge. I've been to lodges all over this state, and we need to make sure that we're doing the work and doing it right.
Absolutely. And I go every time Keith comes down, I'm there. And I would like to go to other lodges and do those forums as well, but I tend to overbook myself all the time. And so I have to make my choices, but Keith Reynolds, it's one of my favorite times is for when he comes down to Victoria, and our district, they all get together, and we usually have a good 20 or 30 people show up. And but I think the main reason I do it is because Brother Mike Calhoun, one of my friends and mentors, he chews on my tail all the time when we're doing our practices, and so I love it when Keith's gets on to him, and I get to sit back and watch. I like to be that fly on the wall. So Keith Reynolds, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job. I just want you to know that.
He does do a great job. It makes it a lot of fun.
Yes. So what are the strengths and weaknesses of our fraternity?
I mean, we all know every organization has their weaknesses. I don't know. We know what most of the weaknesses are. A lot of it is getting new members. A lot of it is retaining the new members. But I think our problem is with getting new members is we're not marketing ourselves enough. The Shrine, they do a fabulous job of marketing themselves, with the hospital and the parades they're in and all this, everything that they do. But a lot of people don't realize that the Shriners are Masons.
Right.
So we need to get more of the Blue Lodge and the other appendant bodies out more in the public, let them know who we are and what we're doing, because these people don't realize that there's other groups in here that are doing a lot of good things. The Shriners, like I said, their hospital and their fezzes and the parades and IHOP collected money and all this sort of thing. But the Blue Lodges don't get out that like that. Our lodge, when they're having them, Pflugerville, a town just north of Austin, has a chili cook-off. We go out there and set up our tent, put up our banner and our Masonic flags, and cook chili. And we don't win, but we still have a good time. When we talk to a lot of people about Masonry, and we get some good inquiries into it. But if you're not out there, we try to at the Veterans Day parade. They have a Veterans Day parade in Austin up Congress Avenue.
Yes.
And we get all the appendant bodies and the Blue Lodge up there, and we get us a trailer and go up and down. We didn't get to do it this year, but they see that, here's the Blue Lodge, there's the Shriners, there's the York Rite, there's the Scottish Rite, and the Commanderies out there. And the Shriners got their little cars and their motorcycles, so they can see that we're all one big group. I talked to one lady one time, and she said she was probably in her early 30s, maybe. She said, "Yeah, my dad was a Shriner." And I says, "Yeah, what lodge do you belong to?" And she, "Oh, he was just a Shriner." I said, "No, he belonged to lodge somewhere." So she didn't even know, but, and I think we can get a lot more exposure to ourselves if we do more outside. The scholarships that we give out, they bring the family into the lodge and they give the scholarships. I think that's great. The family comes in and they get to see the lodge and see what we do. But I think they ought to take it a step further and go back to the school. And I think some lodges are doing that, and go to a PTA meeting or somewhere you've got a big crowd and say, "We're the Masons, we're giving these scholarships to these worthy students, and we do this all the time. So if you're interested in a scholarship, keep in touch with us." But if you're just bringing them into the lodge, which is, don't get me wrong, that's great, but we need to get out more and let them know that we do this, and the Scottish Rite groups, their hospital up there, I'm a trustee for the Scottish Rite Hospital. They need to make sure that they're advertising that more, just like the Shriners are doing their hospital. But we need to just get out in the public more and let them know who we are. And I think another place that we can do that is at our Masonic funerals. I don't like going to a Masonic funeral and see 3 or 4 Masons there.
Right.
We need a whole group of Masons at these funerals, because we're there showing our respect for our deceased brother, our willingness to help the family. But then you've got the extended family, you've got their friends are all out there. And I've had people come up to me at Masonic funerals and ask me about Masonry.
Yes.
And I always tell the story about my dad's funeral, and he's interred in a mausoleum, so there wasn't a whole lot of room. But I look over here and there's like 50 Masons standing over there. That made me really feel proud to be a Mason, that all these guys came out to support my dad and my family. And but the thing that impressed me the most was afterwards, my oldest son went over and talked to one of the guys that he knew over there in the Masons. And he asked him, he says, "Well, how can I get into this?" He says, "Go ask your dad." And, and he's been a solid member of our lodge ever since. But you never know what these things are going to affect people. People come up to me at a funeral and say, "Man, we didn't know y'all did all this stuff. This is really, really cool."
Yes.
So again, that's getting us out in the public and let the public know who we are and what we do.
And it really is the Mason's last degree.
Exactly.
And it's the only public degree that anyone ever sees, and if it's done well and appropriate, and especially if there's a lot of Masons. The first funeral I ever went to up in it was up in North Texas when I was a member of St. John's, or I'm still a member of St. John's, but it was when I was an active member of St. John's. There was a funeral in Melissa, and just a little country funeral, but there was 30 or 40 Masons showed up. And that was the most impressive and most emotional experience I think that I've ever had at a funeral. Was you're absolutely right. Those trigger points are definitely areas where we can improve and get ourselves out there.
Yeah.
It would be nice if we had a resolution, instead of having to ask the Grand Master for permission, if we could wear our aprons in parades.
Well, we do that in Austin for our Veterans Day. We get a dispensation to wear the aprons.
Yes.
And so we've got the aprons on, and some of us, instead of riding on the trail, we get out and kind of walk along the street
and that's
with the crowd and interact.
Exactly. That's another thing is, you've got your your Shriners going in circles in their little cars, and you can have Masons with aprons, like at the four corners, or just kind of lined up, around the outer edges, and people know you're all one group. I think that's an excellent point that you brought up, is keeping us all together as one known fraternity.
Well, I describe sometimes as a tree. The Blue Lodge, that's the root of the tree. All the dependent bodies are the limbs. The Blue Lodge dies out, all the dependent bodies are gone too, because that's where they're getting their members from.
Yes.
So, but we've got to keep the roots strong, and to keep the roots strong, we've got to keep getting some more members in. I know we're kind of on a downhill a little bit slide of losing more members than we're gaining, but I think they raised like 750 Master Masons this year, and so we're getting new members. But now again, we've also got to keep them.
Right.
And to keep them, you've got to give them something of value, in the meetings, other than reading the minutes and paying the bills. We talk about that all the time.
Yes.
But give them what they want, and especially the new EAs, give them something to do. Set up the lodge, help in the kitchen or whatever. Another thing I saw one time was I was at a lodge, and they were in the EA, and this new EA gave his proficiency, did a good job on it. And the treasurer had to leave early for some reason. I forgot what it was, but anyway, so we're getting ready to close, and I stood up about talking about getting these young people involved in this thing. And the master was looking for somebody to pro tem the treasurer spot, and he looks at me, he points at EA, he says, "You're gonna be our treasurer while we close."
Nice.
So he gets up, he goes and sits down. He got this big old grin on his face, and he said, "You got to put that collar on." And so he put that in. That grin got a little bit bigger. They gave him a piece of paper, tell him what he's supposed to say, but it made him feel like part of the lodge, instead of okay, turn your stuff in now, sit down and watch what goes on, and give him something to do like that. And the young guys, they can pro tem other officers that don't have speaking parts, the marshal, the master of ceremonies, that sort of thing, but make them feel like they're part of the lodge. Give them something to do. And
absolutely.
Kind of hopefully keep them coming back.
That's actually a very solid point. Bringing up the marshals and musicians and things of that nature. So many of us only have the basic officers. We don't have the marshal, the pursuivant, or I guess we don't have a pursuivant, and we don't have the musician and other parts, and the master of ceremonies, which actually I think I wonder why we don't have master of ceremonies and marshals, because they organize events. That's their job, is to organize and orchestrate the events. And it seems like we would have so much better events if we had people dedicated to that in those roles. And so that's a very, very valid point. And then, it's a perfect place for a young master that just comes in. Instead of throwing him in the real line, or I say the real line, instead of throwing him in the one that's fixing to, take the steps. Give them those seats. Let them, feel it out. Give them something to do and something to feel proud about.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's a very good point. I also would like to piggyback on your statement of value. That's something that Masonic Improvement really believes in, is that we need to be well-rounded lodges and have more to offer, because not everybody is a ritualist, not everybody is an education guy, not everybody's a charities guy, and not everybody is the cook, so we need to be well-rounded. It's difficult to make men better if men are only sitting in their comfort zones.
Yeah,
we kind of get better when we stretch our limits and try to do new things. And if the lodge doesn't offer it, how can we as a body really get better?
Yeah, I agree. We need more education on these things. We need excuse me, this year they had the grand treasurer had a school for treasurers. I thought that was good. The secretary had the secretary school. We need more of those.
Yes.
We need more of the leadership training for the masters and the incoming masters, so that these people know what to expect when they get there and they're ready to take on the jobs. I've been the
Yes.
secretary of our lodge for 13 years, so I've almost got the secretary's job down. But we need to have more education in those positions, so these people, when they get up there, they know what to do, instead of just kind of fumbling around through the year and trying to figure it out as you go. And by the time your year's up, you might almost have it done.
Right.
But we need more education. And I'm big on education. I like the education. I like the ritual. Just we need to keep up with the education part of it. We need to keep up with the technology that we're getting into, like these podcasts. These are great, but technology, it's changing every day. So we need to make sure that we're keeping up with the technology. And the way you keep up with that technology is with these younger guys. They're the ones that are always on the phones, on the
Yes.
iPads, and what have you. They know this technology a whole lot better than I do. I have to get my grandkids to help me with my phone sometime, but so we need to make sure that the younger generation coming in can work with the older generation, because the older generation, you can't just put them aside, because that's where all the knowledge, the institutional knowledge, and the
Yes.
history comes from, is from the older Masons. But we need to make sure that the older Masons and the younger Masons can get together and sometimes agree to disagree, but
Right.
at least come to some understanding of what we need, what we're doing, and what we need to do to make things better.
Absolutely.
It's like the committee on work. They don't always agree with each other, but they meet and they finally come to a meeting that of the minds, and everybody's okay. This is the way we'll do it. But it's something that they need to work on. The Grand Lodge, they stay busy. The trustees, I've been to, I think, every trustees meeting for the last 2-3 years. I started doing that just so I could find out about the inner workings of the trustees and what they actually did. I was amazed. They've got some tough decisions to make, and but they do a good job, and they're there for the Masons of Texas, and that's kind of what I want to do as well. Be there to be part of that decision making, and come together and make everything kind of meld together and get better as we go along.
Absolutely. When you mentioned the younger guys appreciating the older guys, and of course the older guys need to appreciate the younger guys as well and what they bring. And I myself, I'm actually in the middle, but I have taken the position of some of the younger guys early on, and kind of ruffled some feathers, and I know, and that's okay. It's okay to push the boundaries every once in a while, but we have to remember that, these guys held on to our institution for all this time. It wouldn't be there for us to partake if it wasn't for these guys, and we need to remember to honor and respect, what they bring to the table.
Well, sure. You've got to remember the past, because the past is what got us to the present. And
Right.
This is what's going to get us through to the future. So it all blends together, and you've got
Right.
to
And
make it work.
yes, and maybe not everything did work out as well as it could have or should have, but some things did. And so we have to keep that in mind. It seems like we're in such a divisive world these days of extremes, and you're either for me or against me. And
Right.
in Freemasonry, we shouldn't have that obstacle to change, or to go through. We meet upon the level.
Right.
We're able to talk and discuss different things without coming to blows and getting all upset about it and going home and you're dead to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, there's a few lodges out there that are in that position, and then that's sad to see.
Right, right. Well, we I can the I can honestly say, if you're unhappy with your lodge, if you're unhappy with your current situation, there are lodges all over. And even, especially in the big cities, I just
Oh
couldn't
yeah.
imagine having that kind of, exposure. But, even in these little cities, it's only 30 minutes away for every lodge
Yeah.
around me. I've got 4 or 5 lodges to go to. It's not that difficult to find a place you fit.
Right.
There's no reason to be upset and stop coming. Find a
Right.
lodge where you fit. You
Yeah.
know.
And that's what I tell people when they ask me about joining a lodge like in Austin. I tell them, well, there's 8 lodges in the Austin area. And I tell them, go visit each one of them. Find the one that fits your personality, because they've all got little different personalities or little quirks and things. Find the one
Right.
that you feel comfortable in and go visit several times and find what fits your comfort zone. And that'd be the lodge join.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's extremely good advice. In this era of change that we're going through, and in some ways decreasing, in some ways increasing. Where do you see our current course taking us in the next 10, 20, 30 years?
Well, I wish I had a crystal ball to answer that question. Mine's broke. If you got one, I want to know the lottery numbers for this weekend. But no, I think we're on a good track. I think masonry is getting a little stronger, and we're losing more than we're gaining, because we're having the masons from the 40s and the 50s and all, they're passing away.
Right.
Pretty soon the baby boomers are going to start passing away, so it's going to continue to, and there's a bunch of them. I don't ever see us getting back to 250, 60,000 masons,
Right.
but I wish we could. But I think we're doing okay. We're getting close, but it's still going to take a while to get the numbers back up. But the main thing is we've got to get out there and get the people in. Then we've got to keep the people in. They, excuse me, like I said, I think they've raised 650 new master masons this year, and that's even with COVID. So that's good. And they've had like 756 master masons that they've reinstated. But then we've also lost 1,200 and some odd people. Because I would get a printout from the Grand Secretary's office, and they might have a page of new master masons. Then you turn the next page and there's 3 pages of deaths. So it's just
Wow.
back to life. But it's just going to have to keep going like we're doing. I think we're on the right track. We've just got to make it more appealing to people to come in and see what we do and how it goes.
Right. Right. And then, the most important thing, as we've discussed, is retention, retention, retention. It's
Exactly.
churn is a that's a big corporation's game. We need to retain what we have and solidify our fraternity as with what we have. I agree with you that we may be losing more members, and ultimately will will thin out, and we'll have to probably merge more lodges together, and that's okay. When we were in our boom, we built lodges, but
Right.
now we're not. The lodge isn't the fraternity. It's hard because your heartstrings are attached to that lodge.
Yeah.
But if brothers would think about it before it got to the critical state, there would still be
Right.
something there you could sell and make a nice, contribution to the other lodge, and build it up to make it a magnificent lodge, if we
Yeah.
came together and did that.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like fundraising. You don't do a fundraiser when it gets to where you have to. You do them before that so that you are building up money and all this stuff. And it's kind of the same way with some of the lodges. They wait till the last minute, they try to do something, and it's too late.
Right.
But I'd rather see these lodges merging with another lodge, and they can keep their name, they can hyphenate it. So many of them are doing that nowadays. But I'd much rather see them merge than demise.
Right.
Let's
Absolutely.
keep everything going.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm not not really a quantity guy. I'm more of a quality guy.
Right.
That's another thing that we need to work on is Garden West Gate and get quality people into the fraternity. Not just a guy comes in and visits one time and you hand him a petition out the door, and that's not going to work. Brother Right Worship Larry Trzynski is putting on a program now about how to do a good background investigation. And if you haven't heard him do it, you need to have him come out to your lodge and explain it to you, because it's really interesting, and he's got a lot of good information on how to do good background investigations. I did background investigations on police officers for 15 years. And, ours is a whole lot more thorough, I think, than the Masons, but we need to be more thorough in our investigations and really check these people out and make sure we're getting quality guys instead
Right.
of quantity.
Someone told me not too long ago that they were told that, which I believe it is law that the lodge is not allowed to do a background check on somebody through a computer or whatever because of liability. And if it's wrong or whatever, then it puts it. But in reality, isn't that what we're supposed to be doing? And if you're, I do it with my rental properties, and so the only catch is with the state of Texas is that if I do this background check and they have a dispute, I have to provide a copy to them and say, this is it. This is why I made that decision. And then that way they can go to that company and dispute it, and not just, do it all willy-nilly. There's procedures.
Right.
I wholeheartedly agree that, that there's nothing wrong with a background check. Why, if we're asking them not to be felons of moral turpitude, why aren't we checking that?
Yeah.
Inspect what you expect.
Right. Right. And it's the same way with people that are coming back into the fraternity that have been out for a while. I think they need investigations on them. Like they say they've been out over 3 years. They need to
Oh
look
yeah.
at them. You might not know what they've been doing. I heard that there was one guy wanted to come back into Masonry. He'd been out for like 20 years, but he spent the last 20 years in prison. So,
Wow.
you've got to watch out for these things.
Yes, and that could have been prevented if the background check was done a little bit better.
Right. And, you can't just meet him one time and talk to him over dinner and decide, yeah, he's a good guy. You need to go out to his house and meet his family and see how he lives his life outside of masonry, outside of his job. And of course, I also think they need to involve the spouses in these investigations. Talk to them, let them know. That I think is part of our problem. You need to go out and let these people know what to expect.
Yes.
Tell them, if you get into this fraternity, there's some memory work that's going to have to, and some of it, you got 84 questions in the first degree that you're going to have to learn. It's going to take some time. So they can know what to expect before they get in there, instead of just give them a petition. Okay, come on in, we're initiate you, and then all of a sudden they figure out, wow, all this, nobody told me about this.
Right. It's not something that I talk about a whole lot, but when I first joined, I was a little bit overwhelmed with work and trying to stay involved and get my work done, and I came to that year and it was like, whoa, what am I doing? So fortunately I buckled down and really got it all done in 3 months, and I'm thinking, well, why did I even wait? And that's a sad thing, is that if you really buckle down and try to make it a systematic approach, just like when you were in high school or college, then you can overcome pretty easily. It's not beyond capability. Obviously, it's not beyond anyone's capability. So going back to our weaknesses, you have mentioned our learning from each other and the numbers dwindling a little bit, and we need to overcome that and retain. Are there any other areas where you feel like we can start improving on, and where do you think that Grand Lodge would help or hinder those efforts?
Well, again, the education is the big part of it. And Grand Lodge can give them the information, but you got to get the lodges to use it. There's all kinds of programs that have gone through. I think several of these Grand Masters programs need to be revived. That in the last several years, you get a new Grand Master in, the other Grand Masters program's gone, and his comes in. But there's several of them that need to be carried on and maybe tweaked a little bit. But we need more education. I think that's a big part of it.
I agree. That's one of the things that our lodge has started, and we look to carry it on as long as we can afford it. And of course, we'll see what the investment returns are. But during when I well, let's go back before our lodge would always give an endowment to the past master, to the junior past master, or offer to pay for half of the endowment or whatever. And so in my year, I at the end of my year, I said, I don't need an endowment. So how about if we, put that towards education? And then fortunately, the now junior past master, Scott McMahon, he did the same thing, and I have a feeling that our next one will as well. And our lodge is investing in our growth more assertive than passive. Instead of thinking about after the fact, thinking about doing it beforehand, so that we can build up those programs that you're talking about. And it's the same way with Grand Lodge. It's lodges work a lot like Grand Lodge, and
business.
Yeah.
And then they need to learn how to manage their business efficiently so they can keep going.
Yes.
And especially we need more education on finances for these lodges, how to make a budget and how to stick to it.
Yes.
Things like this, because that's what's hurting a lot of these lodges. And they get some of these lodges that 80% of their members are endowed. Well, the endowment program was a good idea, but and it's still a good idea. But you get lodges like that, you have income coming in. If you're not going to let them pay the per capita, at least, when we do ours, I send a note even to the endowed members, ask them at least you can pay the per capita so we keep this keep going. But
Yes.
It's just, it all comes down, I think, to educating the people and how to run the lodges, how to manage the lodges. The trustees can't run the lodges for them. They can provide them guidance, and they can give them material to use for education and what have you. But they're not going to go in and run the lodge for them. They're going to have to learn how to do that themselves.
Right. And it goes, we talk about lodges merging or demising or what have you. And the reality is that it's of our own doing. It's not Grand Lodge that wants it.
Right.
Man, I was watching a documentary one time about, it was one of the Netflix ones on the Grand Lodge of England. And they were talking about these demise lodges and how they stamp the end of the lodge, and and it was just so heartbreaking just looking at those old certificates from 200 years ago and seeing them fold. So the guy doesn't want to do it, that the Grand Master doesn't want to sign off on it, but at some point, if we don't pick ourselves up by our bootstraps, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
So and I think that you're absolutely right with Grand Lodge, just like with lodges, that we don't carry on our programs from master to master. When I was put into the East, there was an older Mason that kept saying, "You got 1 year. You only get 1 year." And I'm thinking to myself, you're absolutely right, but why are we not building on each other as we go? And trying to, and if each master just brings in one new thing, then within 5 years you have all these new programs that are taking place, and then make it a real lodge vote to stop doing something, and not just the new master saying we're not going to do that this year. That I think that if you were to do that, you would possibly keep yourself well-rounded and not so.
Yeah, well, it's the same way with the trustees. You've got 5 major trustees, seven altogether, counting the treasurer and the secretary, but they need to coordinate with each other as they're moving through the line. This is what I'm looking at, and how can it fit in with what you're doing, and how's it going to fit in with what the deputy grand master wants to do, and how's it fit in with the current master. And let's just kind of keep some continuity going on with some of these programs that are really good, like this Bring a Brother Back program is really good.
Yes.
And it needs to stay around. And I liked Paul Underwood's program of branding yourself, wearing the shirts, wearing the caps. I wear the shirt, or I wear a cap every day.
Yes.
But gets us out there and lets people see who we are. And of course, I've got Masonic plates on both mine and Linda's cars, so
so do I. Yeah. Guilty.
And we get everybody to get some Masonic Lodge, Grand Lodge gets money back from those plates every time you renew them. It's $20-something, I think, every time you renew them.
Yes.
All these people out here at $22 a piece, it's added up money for the Grand Lodge.
Absolutely. Another thing that I do that's just passive income for Grand Lodge, and then also the Scottish Rite. I use one, and Lavinia uses the other. That way on Amazon Smile, every time we purchase something, a percentage goes to Grand Lodge and a percentage goes to the Scottish Rite. So, I'm buying stuff for Freemasonry, and I'm supporting Freemasonry as I go. A lot of those vendors aren't Masons, so you can at least support your.
Linda buys a lot of stuff on Amazon, and it's all going into the smile thing, and yeah, she's supporting.
Yes, we do both. We do both so that we can give extra. And I agree wholeheartedly with the endowed memberships. We do the same thing with the letter. We say, look, we can use that per capita money towards our building fund, our general treasurer's fund, if you'd like, or earmark it to the kitchen. Whatever you want to do it. That's fine. If
Yeah,
you think we don't spend enough money here, then earmark it to that and it'll go to that.
yeah.
That's
And most of the time when you send those letters out, they send more than those just per capita.
oh yeah.
So
Oh
you're
yeah.
getting a little bit here, extra here and there. Every
Yes.
little
I
bit helps.
I always tell people I'm a hypocrite because I say that endowments aren't the greatest idea in the world as far as how they've been, how they're marketed at this point. You never have to pay dues again or whatever.
Yeah,
Instead of saying when you pass away, it really supports the lodge. And even then, it's not that much. So
yeah,
on your way through there, and I say I'm a hypocrite because I'm not totally for them, but I have them with all
yeah,
my lodges. And the reason why is because I don't want to forget to make that check.
yeah.
that's that's but on the other hand, I also make sure that every year my lodge feels my contributions. I make sure that they know that I am there for them. I support them, and every master knows that comes through my lodge that I am there for them. And that's another thing. Just verbal support.
Right.
Just telling that new master or that junior warden or senior warden, be a mentor.
Yeah,
you know I wouldn't be half the man I am today if it wasn't for my mentors.
yeah. Well, the master runs a lodge. A lot of lodges, they say the secretary runs the lodge. Well, I don't want to run the lodge. I've been master
Right.
twice. I don't want to do it again. My uncle was a secretary at Harlandale Lodge in San Antonio for 38 years. And that's Gene Corn's home lodge.
Right.
And when when he was getting installed as Grand Master, I met him back in the back there, and I was talking to him for a little bit. And I said, my uncle was a member of your lodge, and he was secretary for like 30 something years. He said, oh, yeah, you're talking about Maxie Brooks. Me now, Uncle Max has been gone a long time. Uncle Max and my Aunt Irene raised my mother and her sister. My mother's dad actually passed away 3 months before she was born, and her mother passed away when she was 6. So they moved up to San Antonio, and Aunt Irene and Uncle Max raised them. But he was really big in the masonry in San Antonio. Years later, when Uncle Max was his last year as secretary, was the year Gene Carnes was master, and and he told Gene Carnes this. People say that I run this lodge. I don't run this lodge. You run this lodge. You're the master. You need anything, you ask me, and I'll see if I can get it done. But I don't run this lodge.
Right.
So, and again, it goes back to education. We need these masters to know what to expect when they get there. Secretaries and treasurer, and all the other members, past masters, they're there to help, but they're not going to run the lodge for you. They've already been there, done that.
Right. And it's important that people know that they're supported like they are. The
Yeah,
work the worst thing you can do is have a new master, and especially with a small lodge, and throw him into the line, and then when he becomes master, all he sees is a bunch of cat fighting. Because everybody wants power. The
yeah,
best thing is to just support him and help him to have the best year he can have. And that I
right.
kind of feel the same way with grandmasters as well. Let them have, that's their year. Let them
Yeah,
have the best year they can have. Do everything you can to make it feel special for them, because they're working their tail off. They've been working their tail off.
yeah,
So, when you're out there at the events, make it count. Make sure that they feel appreciated for what they're doing, what they've done. And
right.
and it's the same way with the masters. And uh,
Good.
and really we can thank the secretaries and treasurers the same way. They just, we just need to make sure that they understand that we truly appreciate them, but we don't think that they hold all power.
Right.
I agree. With that, I got to tell you, you've been a member of so many things, and of course it makes sense that you're high on education. You joined the Texas Lodge Research, and I'm the same way. As soon as I heard about it, it's like, oh, yes, I want to join. So I totally get it. And then with all your different things that you've done as far as with York Rite and Scottish Rite and the Shrine, did you have any mentors that kind of helped you along? What was your take? What is your take on a mentorship, apprenticeship type thing, besides the guy that's teaching you your work, going further in whatever avenue it is? How do you feel about that?
So, besides my dad, he was always making sure I was staying up with it and all, but there were several people that helped me along through the years. Trying to think. Well, I'll tell you one that when I started this journey about 3 years ago was Mike Gower. When I had people telling me I was district deputy in 2013 with Walt Rogers, and that was one of the best years of my Masonic career. We had a blast. We went all over the state, but the people kept telling me, "You need to do that." No, I don't think so. But got a little older and they're retired, and I need something to do. And the end of masonry is I want to do more for masonry. So that's when I decided to go this path. And Mike Gower was one of the first people I talked to. And he told me, "You come to San Antonio, we will have lunch, we'll talk." And so I went down there and we had lunch and we talked for about 2 hours. But he started out and he says, "I'm not going to talk you into this madness, and I won't talk you out of it. But this is what you've got to expect. This is what's going to happen. And you've got to know what you're going to need to be doing." And he says, "And the first thing you need to do is check with Linda to make sure it's okay with her." I says, "Well, I've talked to her and she's okay with it." He says, "When we get through talking, you go ask her, you go back and you tell her what we talked about. You ask her that question again, because I'm going to ask you again."
Yes.
And so, we talked, like I said, for about 2 hours. And when I went back, I talked to Linda for a while about it. She was still behind me all the way. So next time I see Mike, first thing he said after "Hi, George," was, "You talk to Linda again?" Yes, sir. What'd she say? He said, "She's 100% behind me." He said, "You got half the battle won." We can't do what we do without the spouses and the ladies in our lives. They support us a whole lot. They take care of kids while we're gone to meetings and all this.
Yes.
So they're very important to masonry. And Linda's been all over the state with me the last couple of years and gotten to know a lot of the other ladies that are out and around. And she's having as much fun as I am, I think.
Yes.
But it's you got to have their support and keep things going.
I agree 100%. My wife and daughter, I mean, this, they travel with me everywhere. They're hotel girls. They like it. As long as we have an indoor swimming pool, then they're in.
Yeah.
That's why we stay at specific hotels all the time, and that way, they always have something to do.
Yeah,
absolutely. So not only have you this tremendously huge resume of Masonic things that you've done, you've also and this is very important to me to touch on this, because this is something that Masonic improvement is very Masonry is not just for the internal. It starts in the internal, but it's so that we can take it out to the world. Now, you personally, you're a, a board member of the alumni for UT band. Is that correct? You're
Yes.
you're on the you're a trustee for the Scottish Rite. Is that correct?
Yes.
Scottish Rite
Right.
Hospital.
Uh,
And then what other things have you done on, besides just strictly Masonic? Because I see just a plethora of things that you do that are so important to our communities and to our schools and to the people around you. I am so proud to know you that you have really embraced Freemasonry and taken that to be the leader in your community that you need to be. I'd love to hear a little bit more about those things.
well, like I said, I played in the Longhorn Band at UT, and I've been a member of the alumni band since 1972, 73. And I've been an officer in that organization since 1983. And I've served as what we call an Austin area rep. I get groups together to play for different functions. We played for weddings, we played for birthdays, we played for funerals,
Very fun.
But and our goal in that is we get donations to our scholarship fund. I've served on the board of directors for 4 years there, and I served on the board of trustees for 4 years. And the trustees manage a scholarship fund about $1.75 million.
Wow.
And last month we gave out over $300,000 in scholarships to members of the Longhorn Band. And
Wow.
our goal is to eventually give every member of that band a scholarship, including incoming freshmen. You
Wow.
know, the incoming freshmen may not get quite as much as some of the ones that've been around a while, but every little bit helps.
Yes. Yes, it
And
does. I can tell you it does.
but we're a worldwide organization. We have over 4,000 members worldwide. We went over to London for the New Year's parade a few years ago. We went to Normandy for the 75th anniversary of Normandy a couple of years back. And when I was in the band, we went to Peru and marched in the bull ring, which was
Very cool.
but
Very cool.
but it's been a great experience. I always tell people if I could go to UT and do nothing but play in Longhorn Band, I'd probably still be going because it was
Nice.
a great organization. I got to meet great people just like the Masons, and a lot of my good friends are members of the Longhorn Band because that's who I hung out with for all those years. I served as president of that organization from 2005 to 2006, and it's just been again another big part of my life, just like masonry. And I've talked to a lot of people in the Longhorn Band about masonry. I talked to a lot of people in masonry about the Longhorn Band too.
Yes.
I can talk all day about those two subjects.
Absolutely.
We had a Mason in Austin, Moulton Crockett. He was a big Longhorn Band guy. He was in the band in the 40s. He was a drum major, and he was actually director of Longhorn Band from 50 to 55 before Vincent Bonito came. He's the one that went to Chicago and brought Big Bertha down to UT.
Mm.
So, and myself and Moulton and another gentleman have set up a little fund for the preservation of the Big Bertha. Mr. Crockett has passed away, but so me and this other gentleman are kind of keepers of Big Bertha, and we've got a fund set up to take care of her, but they're getting ready to retire the one that we've got. The drum's almost 100 years old.
Wow.
And they've collected money to build a new drum, another big, huge drum, and
Right.
they've collected over $450,000. Masons are very generous and all, but Longhorn Alumni Band is very generous too. We give a lot of money to the university and to the band for scholarships and things like building a new Big Bertha and taking the band to these London and Germany and Peru and
Yes.
all. And so It's been a great adventure, and I've loved Longhorn Band almost as much as Masonry. But I've been a Mason as long as I've been a member of that group as well. So just I like being in part of a group that does things like that. I also have my own little karate program that I teach.
Yes,
Uh,
I saw that.
yeah, well, it started out as a PE class at one of the high schools. Myself and the SRO there at school resource officer at one of the high schools decided we'd get a PE class together. Because I remember walking in there and walking through the gym, and there was 40 or so kids in there. There was about three of them doing what the coach was doing. The rest of them were just sitting there. I said, yes. He says, all we got to do is have them show up. We can't make them do anything. So
Right.
let's get them to doing something. And we got several of them come in there and to try it out. And two kids in particular, they were kind of hesitant about even going in the gym. Are you going there? No, you're going in there. No. So we got them in there. And those two kids actually turned out to be two of our best students.
Nice.
Uh, at that time, I belonged to another organization that my oldest son wanted to do it back when he was 6 years old. And I used to go watch him, and they talked me into joining. So told him, okay, I'll try it. And tell you, okay, I don't like it, leave me alone. But
Right.
I'm still trying to figure out whether I like it or not. But we that program kind of fell apart and then so we started another organization, and it went along for a few years, and it started to kind of fall apart. So myself and the gentleman from Reagan went to started this program in the gym. So we had our own little program for about a year there, and then the one that we left previously, the school district decided that they had some problems and they didn't want them back in the schools. So the principal of one of these elementary schools that our lodge supports with fantastic teeth and what have you,
Yes.
called me one time and asked me, would I be interested in bringing my program over there? Because they'd had the program and everybody loved it. He loved it. He was actually part of our group. And so I did, and that was in 2000. We're still over there. We're not getting as much in as we can, but we still try to get out there, and when we can, get all this COVID stuff over with.
Right.
I love teaching the kids. It's a great thing. We have a few parents that join it too.
Very cool.
It's a lot of fun.
If William Batters is out there listening, then he
Yeah,
should definitely pay attention to this, because he
yeah,
I think he could follow your lead. You could be a mentor to him for something like that. That would be awesome.
yeah. I've seen his post. It's pretty cool.
Yes, yes. So we were talking earlier before the interview, and I was asking you about um one of what resolution stuck out in your mind, and you had immediately responded the one that our grand treasurer submitted, past master Rick Townsend, right worshipful Rick Townsend. And I'm going to read this real quick so that our viewers know what it is, because we're trying to express, let guys hear what these resolutions are, and hear a couple of ideas on how we feel about it, and then that way they can form their own opinions before they go to Grand Lodge, and before they debate it in their own lodge with the rest of the members of their lodge. So the resolution is resolution number 26. It's the very last one. Whereas Article 163B and 318A of the laws of Grand Lodge of Texas provide for the establishment, operation, and management of endowed memberships, and such articles additionally specify various duties of the Grand Lodge trustees as to the calculation of the annual distributions made from the endowed membership fund to the subordinate lodges of the Grand Lodge of Texas from such fund. And whereas the annual distribution made to the subordinate lodges on account of endowed membership provide vital financial support to such lodges. And whereas predictably and reliability of such annual distribution is critical to the subordinate lodges in planning their annual budgets, whereas the amount of each annual distribution should not be reduced or restricted if the long-term viability of the fund is not jeopardized. They need to fix some spelling errors in here.
Yeah.
And whereas regular fixed annual withdrawals of 5% from the endowed fund will not jeopardize its long-term growth, and whereas the Grand Lodge of Texas has implemented modern cash management practices which have reduced or eliminated the administrative costs of paying annual distributions from endowed membership fund to subordinate lodges. Blah 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 blah. So basically that's the gist of it. So he's proposing that therefore it be resolved that 163B and 318A be amended as follows. 163B, the endowed membership fund will consist of all monies received by the Grand Lodge for the purpose of purchasing the endowment memberships. It goes on, we all know what that does. And they're taking out the part that says, unless specifically authorized by a 2/3 majority vote of the Grand Lodge, no part of the principal amount of the endowed membership shall be used for any purpose except investment and reinvestment, and only then after due notice shall it be given to the lodges as members of Article 172. All income earned from the investment fund, less any administrative fees by these laws, shall be annually distributed to the lodge of Article 318 of these laws. Such administrative fees shall be placed at least annually. Okay, so basically what they're saying is that it has to be assessed, voted on, and then put the fees on top of or subtract that from what goes back to the lodges currently. That's currently the law. And what they're wanting to do now, it goes further down to say that the value of the units each year at their full market value of a distribution of 5% of the average value of the units, which it used to be 3%, I believe, wasn't it?
Well, what it was
Actually, it was a percent. Go ahead.
Yeah, if the value of the units went below $100, they could lower the distribution to 3%.
Okay.
He wants to take that out and make it 5%. Every year you're going to get 5% return on your endowments. There's also another little line down in the law that a lot of people forgot about, was the lodges were actually paying a fee to have the checks printed and mailed. And he's going to take that out. He's found a company in California that does it more efficiently and a lot cheaper. So the lodges aren't out that little fee. I mean, it may not be a whole lot, but when you start adding up a bunch of endowments, it comes out to a little bit.
Oh yeah.
So they're taking that out, and they're going to be the distribution fee will be 5%. Period. There's no dropping it down if the value goes down. And he says that can be sustained by the
savings alone from
the thing. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's what he does, and I'm all for that. I mean, it's helping the lodges.
Yes, I would like to say that I'm against it just so that we can have debate, but I can't say that. That not only does it help the lodges with the bigger distribution, but I think the value of utilizing technology, the way that it's available to us, I think the leadership showing that it's of value, and showing that you can actually increase by decreasing some of the old habits that we have. I think it's leadership by example, and I think more lodges should consider that and start focusing on going into a digital world with their finances, strictly because it does save money. It also it also has so many other benefits, like making it easier to pay dues, making it easier for me to give $100 to the lodge instead of that 2750 for the per capita. Do you have any other thoughts on that? Or
Well, no, like I said, I know Right Worshipful Townsend's done a lot of work on this thing and got the figures down. And said I've been to these trustees meetings. I've heard him explain how it's going to work, and it's going to work, and it's going to be a good thing.
absolutely, I agree wholeheartedly. And we've also started embracing that with our lodge. Our website has, when we update our lodge calendar, and it's free through Gmail. When we update our lodge calendar, it automatically updates on the website, so everybody can see what we're doing. There's and not only our lodge, but the district. So it's
sure. That's something I'd like to see. Kind of, we can implement that too. Is getting all these lodges to have a website. And I've talked to the internet committee, Craig Enderley and that bunch, and they're willing to help anybody set one up, just a simple one that, you've got a calendar and you can put events in it and keep your officers up. I've seen some of these websites that I go to visit and I pull up websites, see what the lodge is like, and their officers are still on there from 2016.
Yes.
So
yes.
we need people that can update these things. And again, this comes back to the younger guys with the technology.
Absolutely. Give them something to do.
There you go. But I'd like to see every lodge have a website so that they can. And the other thing is, a lot of them need to update their information in Grandview.
Yes.
I've been to a couple of lodges. I've looked up the address and I go there and it's not here. So, fortunately, one of them I did that to was a small town, so it just took me a few minutes to drive around and find all the cars parked up. That's
exactly. Yep.
But the building it took me to still had the square and compass on the top of it, but it wasn't there.
Right.
So, we need to make sure these lodges are updating their information on Grandview.
Yes, and it's so easy now, which is, Justin Duty has done just a miraculous job with Grand Lodge Secretary's office, and and all the people that work with him. They're doing such a great job, updating Grandview and getting things going, and getting so many documents into PDF form, and making it so much easier for our secretaries. And then not only that, but they have all the training online. And you can spend at least 4 days that I know of solid of just training with all the stuff that you can do as a secretary or treasurer.
Yeah. Justin's done a phenomenal job.
Yes.
You got to really give him and his staff credit. They're doing a great job.
Is there anything else that you would like to close with? Is there anything that you would like to get out there that we haven't really touched on? We've touched on a lot. We really have. This has been a fun interview. This has been fun. Is there anything that you would like to close with before we finish our time together?
Well, I'd just like to say that I've enjoyed this tonight. It's been a lot of fun. I'm not much for being on a TV type thing. When I was a policeman, and the TV crews would come up to us at one of the incidents of fatalities or something we were working on, I'd say, go talk to the guy with the stripes,
Exactly.
But it's been fun, and Masonry has helped me do that. Of course, being a policeman helped too, but because I was kind of shy in high school, but Masonry's kind of brought that out of me, and I would have never thought, 47 years ago that I would be in the position that I'm at right now.
Right.
I was happy just to do Masonic stuff and keep on moving, but it's come to this position, and I'm excited about it. But it's going to be a journey. Still got a little ways to go, but masonry's kind of brought me out of my shell, and of course, like police work did too. I mean, you got to learn to talk to people in police work, and I get that, and I learned to talk to people in masonry and about masonry, and it's just been a great adventure, And I just want to work for the Grand Lodge of Texas and the Masons of Texas, and work with the trustees, get to make the fraternity stronger and better. And let's get some better men, get some good men in, and help them. Maybe some of them need to come out of their shell too, because like I said, me standing in front of a bunch of people and talking when I was in high school, that's not going to happen. But now
Right.
I feel pretty good about it, and I enjoy it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I do appreciate you inviting me to come on this thing. It's been a lot of fun, and we'll maybe do it again sometime.
Absolutely, we definitely will. And I would like to, piggyback on what you're saying there, because that's the idea behind Masonic improvement is not just to make good men better, but to make lodges better, and to make our fraternity better. And we only do that by being well-rounded and offering so many different things, and creating the value and the excitement in our lodges that we ought to be doing. And it's nice to see that men like yourself that have been working in different leadership positions have really embraced that, and believe in it, and understand the importance of being well-rounded, and creating that value, especially for the young guys that are going to be the next thing. We, as mentors, we need people to mentor.
They're the future of masonry. We're going to have to hand it over to them, and they're going to carry it on, I hope, for many generations to come.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to see a Moxley in here, 20th generation Mason with these days, But the young guys, that's the future of our fraternity.
Yes.
We need to work with them and listen to what they've got to say, and get them to kind of listen to the old guys too. So like,
yes,
keep it all together.
And that's kind of what our goal is to try to help with that process, and remind both sides that we all have value to bring. We just got to bring it. And that's a lot of the problem, is that we don't bring it, and then we wonder why it happened the way it happened. And so it's ultimately up to us,
Right.
One of the things that I had mentioned on the last one, in closing with this as well, is that there's guys out there that feel like they're on an island. That's sometimes you're especially like in country lodges, you're looking for that education, you're looking for different things, and you're traveling. I travel to San Antonio and do a lot of stuff, and I bring it back to our lodges, but we travel to get everything that we can out of Freemasonry. And one thing we want to touch on is that if the purpose of Masonic improvement is, if you feel like you're on an island, let us know. We will get you in touch with the George Moxleys out there. We will get you in touch with the Billings and or whoever, like the Yeti Berryman. We'll get you in touch with guys that are really fascinating people that can depending on whatever your tastes are and what you're looking for, we can help you with that, because it's important that we capitalize on what makes us excited, because that's what drives us. It's that passion you were talking about.
Right. Exactly.
Yes, absolutely. Brother George, this has been a very, very interesting interview. I really enjoyed spending time with you tonight,
Yeah,
and
I
really
enjoyed it.
yes, and we will definitely have to do this again soon.
We can do that. You just let me know when and where, and I'll be there.
Yes, sir. And with that being said, I'm gonna close out this episode of Masonic Improvement, and thank you all for listening. It's a blast to do it. We hope that it's encouraging for you, and I'm certainly glad that we're fortunate enough to have people like George Moxley to talk to, and we have several other guys lined up in the future that are going to be brothers, I should say, not guys, brothers in the future, and we hope you stay tuned and give us a good listen. Y'all take care and have a good evening.